Hello, my name's CavemanAston, and today I've got a kitchen knife that a friend of mine at work has decided to get rid of. I'll show you up close in a minute, but the handle is cracked on both sides. Like there's a section just here missing at the top, and the same on the other side. He said he's ordered a replacement, and he's kindly given this to me, so I'm going to spend the next bit or the video. I'm going to cut off these pins. Try and break off all of this. I think it's plastic, or we'll have a look as I get stuck into it. Break it off both sides. Going to find some wood. I've got a few bits of I think matured oak that I might try. Not sure about it being a kitchen knife having wood handles, but if it doesn't work, then I guess I can always make yet another handle. So just go through and let you guys follow along with me. Alright, so this is a close-up of the knife. Try and make sure I get it into focus. So hopefully, it's a Wusthof knife. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's German, and apparently quite well made. Unfortunately, like I said, it has broken. So just there is the bit where both both sides are broken, right at the top of the knife. And if I can get it to focus, so there's also a section there. There are on one side a few more cracks that seem to have appeared elsewhere in the knife. So I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but just through here, sort of about there, there's a crack that runs to about there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and pry it all apart. I'm not sure if it's glued or not. I can see some sort of scum type marks. I don't know if that's glue that's been left over, or if it's just where the material sat there for so long. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and prise it all off, possibly take a very gentle chisel to it, just to pry it off. Then I'm probably going to take an angle grinder and just grind off that bit in the centre here, so grind off each of these pins as they run down. Then I'm going to lay it on top of a bit of wood and mark around the handle, so I'll just trace the outline all the way around. That'll give me a rough place to start cutting, so I'll be able to cut it roughly to shape, slightly oversized. Then I can mark up the holes, drill the holes, and I'm not sure what I'll use for pins yet. I might even use a couple of bits of brass. We'll see how it looks. A couple of pins, I'll cut those slightly longer, peen them over once it's ready, and I can just start sanding and shaping the handle. So let's get cracking. Okay, so hopefully you can see I've managed to clean off a lot of the gunk, which I assume was in fact glue. Got myself a bit of oak here that I've had from previous projects. So I'll put the knife on, can mark it just a little bit longer than it needs to be for the final thing, which will give me enough room to cut it down later with. The reason the knife is propped up is just to take account of this arch up in the top section here. So what will happen is so I'll cut that off. I'll probably slice this down the middle so it will actually end up in two halves if I can get it even, otherwise I'll have to get another section of this. And what I'll do is I'll put the wood kind of like this, and I'll mark the arch on both sides, and then I'll just gently file it in or sand it in just to match the curve of the knife. But that's why I've just had it down a bit further, that's all.
Waiting for concession from inculcated friends, waiting for the fear and hate and pain to end, waiting for the rain and anticipating, waiting for peace while they're invading, waiting for the truth that's vacillating. I'm waiting, waiting on the edge, calculating, waiting for a cure, integrating, waiting for the change, transmutating. I'm waiting. Waiting for this body and this mind to move in sync. Waiting for coherence with the breath and my own heartbeat. Waiting for incongruity to make its kind amends. Waiting for the fear and hate and pain to end. Waiting for the rain, anticipating, waiting for peace while they're invading, waiting for a truth that's vacillating. I'm waiting, waiting on the edge, calculating, waiting for a cure, integrating, waiting for the change, transmutating. I'm waiting. Feel the space in between. Don't fill the spaces in between. Feel the space in between. Don't fill the spaces in between. Feel the space in between. Don't fill the spaces in between. In between. Waiting for the rain, anticipating, waiting for peace while they're invading, waiting for a truth that's vacillating. I'm waiting, waiting on the edge, calculating, waiting for a cure, integrating, waiting for the change, transmutating. I'm waiting, waiting for the rain, anticipating, waiting for peace while they're invading, waiting for a truth that's vacillating. I'm waiting, waiting on the edge, calculating, waiting for a cure, integrating, waiting for the change, transmutating. I'm waiting.
Alright, here we go, one finished knife. So it's all done. I'm going to polish kind of this up, get some of the marks and stuff that have just been left from sanding. A couple of bits just kind of stuck on there. So I'll clean that up. I'll use the knife sharpening jig to try and sharpen it up so it'd be nice to use. But the handle's all done. I'm not particularly happy with it, but it will do the job. It feels nice, it just doesn't look great. I'll get a couple of close-up shots in a second and move the video somewhere so you can see it. But what I've got is the couple of brass bits. So the smaller bits are ever so slightly misaligned. So what's happened is I filed the curved edge at the top of the knife, and I kind of aligned the central hole that's about 12 mil and drilled that. I then marked up the other two holes and drilled those, but because I must have misaligned the drill ever so slightly, they've not actually lined up perfectly. So what I should have done is I should have actually put the 12 or something that was about 12 mil through, such as just you taking the drill bit out of the drill, sticking it through the bit of wood and through the knife, and then drilling through for the handle. So that would have solved a few of the problems. And what's happened is where the hole's misaligned, I've either got a gap, some of it's filled with epoxy, some of it hasn't, and then what I've done is I've then used a hammer to peen over the edge. On one of the holes it's kind of filled it a little bit, One of the other holes, it's spread out quite nicely, but it's not particularly round, so it doesn't look so great. And then on one of the holes, you can see where the brass has just started to split apart. So that does look a bit naff. The other bit is, if you're going to be doing this yourself, the centre section where I've used the angle grinder with a sanding disc, it's worked really nice actually for just taking it down to size. It's nice and rounded on the corners, so it's nice and smooth to hold. I then just sanded it down with some sandpaper to about 100 grit. But what was happening is I was sanding down the excess brass from the centre section, because it was quite proud even after I'd peened it over to kind of fill that in the gap as well. As I was sanding it down, it was obviously getting quite hot, and it's melted all of the epoxy, so I could see the epoxy was oozing out around the edges. Hopefully it's not going to cause too much of a problem, because I mean the whole knife's been epoxied up and down the length of the handle, and where the brass has been peened over a bit, it should pinch it just enough for it to not matter. Couple of other bits. The handle width isn't actually even. That's because where I cut the bit of wood in half at the beginning, it's just purely me trying to be cheap. Should have just used 2 bigger bits of wood and be done with it. But it's not so much noticeable now I've ground it down, but there is a little bit there. Other thing, we're using the angle grinder with a sanding disc. It gets hot, leaves quite a lot of burn marks, and I spent quite a while sanding it down with some sandpaper at 80 grit. Maybe I just needed to get some 40 grit, but I don't have any. But some of those burn marks are just going to sit there forever now until I rehandle it. But yeah, so hopefully you might have learned something, even just from my mistakes. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Hopefully I'm going to be tidying up the mill and the lathe, and vice versa, giving it a real good clean down, and I've got some sort of concertina fabric stuff and some rubber matting to put down over all of the ways, so that hopefully I don't get them absolutely covered. Makes it a little bit easier to clean up afterwards. I'll be showing you that, so it'll be a bit more of a tear down of both of the machines. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye.